In this After Effects tutorial, we will try to recreate the intro to the new MagnatesMedia video. Here is an example of what we are going to learn.
When Thomas Edison was young, many described him as an idiot. However, he would go on to become one of the most legendary inventors of all time. He completely changed the world and built a business empire.
By the way, if you want to support the channel, in addition to your likes, you can also do it from my Patreon page. There, I share with you all the projects I use in the tutorials, so you can keep practicing and learning. I leave the link in the description if you want to take a look.
The first thing we'll do is import all the files. Well, all is these two Photoshop files, which, since they separate into layers, we have to import them separately. Here we choose Composition, Editable Layer Styles, and do the same with the other file.
By the way, if you like documentary-style editing, my course is now available. But it's not just a course in which I show you how to animate a sequence in After Effects and that's it. But I show you the entire procedure that I followed to create this animation. From the initial idea to the final render, going through each and every phase of the creative process. I'll leave the link in the description in case you want to take a look.
To keep everything well organized, we select everything and open the order script that our friend Sabbath said we use, totally free. Click on this option Search everything by folder. Image, audio files, compositions, Photoshop files, and video. We access this composition by double click. We'll modify the settings. Make it 9020 by 1080 at 30 frames and with 50 seconds left. We name it Scene 1 and create a 50mm camera and a node. This window means we have to convert the layers to 3D. No problem. Select them and activate the cube icon. Again, right-click, New, Null Object, convert it to 3D and parent the camera to it. Unfold the position and mark a keyframe at 220. And at the beginning of the timeline, move the camera up. Set the y-axis to -650. Smooth this keyframe with F9 and set the influence to 80%. Duplicate the null, delete the keyframes, and mark a new one. This animation will start at 105. Place the keyframe there and parent the previous null to the new one. Now advance to second 5 and set the z-axis to -2040. Smooth the keyframes and right-click to set the influence to 65%.
To create the parallax effect, we have to send the house layers back and position them. In Z, we put 1000, in X 900, and 630 in Y. Look how cool the parallax effect looks. We duplicate the layer, right-click, and go to transform. And flip it horizontally, we put 1025 on the x-axis. We duplicate this layer, and with the pen tool, we are going to make a mask like this around the face. To this copy, we add the Limitri color effect and we increase the temperature to generate a bit of contrast. I think a value of 40 is fine. We can also increase the feathering of the mask a bit. Now, we copy this effect and paste it to the house layers. We duplicate the ground layer and add the fill effect. We turn it off for the moment, and with the eyedropper, we select a color more or less like this. Now we can reactivate the effect. Using the pen tool, let's create a mask like this. We'll set it to subtract mode and increase the feathering quite a bit. If necessary, we'll adjust these mask nodes. Now we'll set this copy to overlay mode. And what we'll achieve is a bit of contrast between the houses in the background and the road. We'll place this video of the clouds at the very bottom, convert it to 3D, and add a tint effect invert the colors, and for black, set a color similar to this one. Now the sky looks much more integrated into the scene. We'll set the scale to 110, and on the last keyframe, move it up a bit. I don't want to send this sky layer backward on the Z-axis, because otherwise I'd have to increase the scale too much. But this way I can't see the houses. So here's a trick. If we put an adjustment layer over the sky layer, we separate the 3D space into two different layers, and the layers below the adjustment layer no longer interact with those above it. Let's create a 3000 by 3000 solid to make the rain the color white. We have to convert it to 3D and scale it a little more to cover the entire composition. We add the CC rainfall effect with these parameters. First, we deactivate this option. This value is to see how much rain we want. We set it to 1000. If we set the scene depth to 100, which is the minimum, the rain will look very flat. So we set it to 2000 to generate a little depth. We set the speed at which the drops fall to 5000, and here we can adjust the wind direction. We set it to 3000 so the wind blows from this side. We set this layer to soft light mode. Now we activate motion blur for all layers. Well, for the nulls and the adjustment layer, it's not necessary. And this is what the first scene looks like. We create another composition called montage and leave everything as is. We go into this one and copy all the layers. Now we paste them into the montage composition. We center them in view, place scene 1 below, and convert them all to 3D. We're going to create another 35mm camera. Again, right-click, New, Null Object. Convert it to 3D and parent the camera to it. For now, I'm going to deactivate these 3 layers, and the first movement will start at 325. We unfold the position and mark a keyframe. We advance to 715 and set a value of -3,900 on the Z-axis. And at second 9, we set it to -4,000. We smooth the keyframes. I set 3 keyframes so that the camera braking is much smoother and more progressive. We'll see this better now in the animation curve. We double-click here, activate the continuous box, and set the influence to 50%, the other handle as well. We move this handle up a bit, and that's how we get this very organic curve. We make the hands layer visible and position it. I'm going to activate 2 views to better see what's happening. We have to fit this frame into the composition, so we're going to move it a bit to the front and sides. It looks perfect there, but as we always do, we're going to set the exact values. On the x-axis, 1070, on the y-axis, 545, and on the z-axis, -785. As I always say, I set these values and this timing because, after doing some tests, they're the ones that have worked best for me. Right at this point, we're going to mark a keyframe on this layer, and more or less around this point, we'll adjust the photo frame to the edges of the composition. It doesn't have to be perfect. We'll place this keyframe below this other one and soften them with F9. To fill all these empty spaces, let's go to the composition of scene 1 and change the dimensions, making it 2,500 by 2,500. For this layer of houses, we add the CC reptile effect, and expand the pixels to the left. From repeat, we change to unfold. We copy the effect and paste it to the houses on the right and to the ground layer. Although in this layer, we also have to increase the pixels to the right and down. This is enough. You no longer see the empty spaces, but the image is going outside the photo frame. We'll fix it very easily. With the pen tool, make a shape like this. It doesn't have to be perfect. We rename it and convert it to 3D. Now, we have to position it exactly where the photo frame is. Look at the shape here, and here, the photo frame. If we press the Ctrl and Shift keys and parent the pick whip to this layer, it automatically acquires all its positioning properties. Now we just need to adjust the shape to the photo frame. And for this composition of Scene 1, we make it an alpha matte of the red shape. Perfect. Let's continue. Now let's move on to the layer of the man with his back to us. Look here where we have it. To create the parallax effect correctly, we have to bring it to the front on the Z-axis. We set a depth of -2,700 pixels. In X, we set it to 1055, and the scale is reduced to 60%. This should look perfect. We activate the background layer and increase the scale to 155. We also have to position it correctly. On the X-axis, we set it to 500, in Y, 770. And in Z, we set a depth of 1500. Look at the glasses there. The parallax effect looks really cool. Let's preview everything. It looks spectacular. While on the last keyframe, we duplicate the null to make another movement. We delete these and mark a new one. The animation will start at second 7. We relate the previous one to the new one and advance to 1015. Here, we move the scene to the left. On the X-axis, we give it a value of 9,885. And at second 12, we put it at 10,000. We're going to do the 3 keyframe technique again. We smooth them and give the curve a little shape. Double-click, the influence at 65%, activate the continuous box. This handle the same. Now this one, we're going to move it a little upwards to get this progressive slope in the curve. Being in the last keyframe, we're going to place this image of the grass. We convert it to 3D, and to place it right in front of the camera viewfinder, press Ctrl plus Home. Now we send it a little towards the background. We give it a value of -2700 so that it stays at the same depth as the man back layer. We move it a little downwards. To make the transition, we create a black solid with these measurements. We convert it to 3D, and to place it at the same depth as the man back layer, we hold down the Ctrl and Shift keys and parent it with the pick whip. We have to place it more or less where the man back layer ends. Perfect. So that the entire cut isn't noticeable there, we make a slightly irregular mask. Put it in subtract mode and increase the feathering considerably. We apply the CC Reptile effect to the grass PNG and increase the pixels to the left. From Repeat, we change to Unfold. While on the last keyframe, we'll now bring in this other PNG of a man from behind, convert it to 3D, and in the same way as before, holding down the Ctrl and Shift keys, parent the pick whip to the grass layer. We adjust the scale and position a little, and move it below this layer. We repeat the process with this texture, converting it to 3D and centering it in the viewport. We're going to send it 1000 pixels back on the Z-axis. We'll increase the scale to 200%, rotate it 180 degrees, and move it down a bit. We do the same with the world video, converting the layer to 3D and centering it in the viewport. We'll also set a depth of 1000 pixels on the Z-axis. Set the scale to 200 and the y-axis to 1360. With the ellipse tool, we'll create a mask like this. We'll position ourselves right in the center, and with the Control and Shift keys pressed, create a perfectly circular mask. We'll put this layer in soft light mode. There on the left side, you can see the texture cutout, so we add the CC reptile effect and increase the pixels a bit. Right here at this point, when the composition looks completely black, we're going to select all these layers and cut them at that point. And we're going to start these others right there. If we want, we can change the colors to differentiate them. We'll apply the tritone effect to the man's layer and lighten the midtones a bit. We'll apply the tint effect to the grass layer and darken the white color quite a bit. Instead of animating the camera's depth of field, we'll use the Gaussian blur effect. Here, we'll set it to a value of 50, or even a little higher. 70 looks pretty good. We'll copy the effect and paste it to the background layer, but here we'll lower the intensity a bit. This way we achieve a depth of field, which gives our animation a much cooler finish. To give it a more professional look, we'll perform a color correction To do this, I'll use the Magic Bullet Looks plugin. Here, in this section where it says Looks, we can choose from a ton of presets. I'm going to choose this one called Secret Salt. Now, in this section that says Tools, I'm going to add the optical diffusion and chromatic aberration effects. Here, I'm going to set a value of 1.10, and here's 0.3. I'm also going to set a lens distortion value of -15. Notice how the colors look much more vivid and with a very cinematic look. Right-click, create an adjustment layer, and add the curves effect. With RGB selected, move this point a little to the left to give the scene a little more luminosity. Shape the red channel curve like this. If we want the tones to look a little greenish, we can move the blue channel curve like this. For this face layer, I'm going to lower the temperature a bit so it's not so saturated. Finally, add the tritone effect to the Scene 1 composition. Right here at this point, we lighten the midtones a bit. Mark a keyframe as Blend with Original. Move back a bit and set the value to 100 so the original color shows through. We soften these two keyframes, and that's it. Our animation is now finished and working perfectly. If you get stuck at any step, or there's something you don't understand, write to me in the comments, and I'll fix it. And if you liked the tutorial, leave me a big like so I know. See you in the next video.
When Thomas Edison was young, many described him as an idiot. However, he would go on to become one of the most legendary inventors of all time. He completely changed the world and built a business empire.